Thank you. This topic is a very passionate and very important issue to me. I come here to the tribunal with years of experience and participation in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change since 1998. So I have a good, clear perspective of the issues. And with this experience and insight, I feel that the presentation that was presented by Mr. Salome lends clear evidence that this case should be accepted. It is clear in the presentation that to preserve a livable planet and to protect the vital life cycles of Mother Earth and nature, that we must reduce the amount of CO2 and greenhouse gases in the atmosphere from its current level of 400 parts per million to below 350 parts per million, and even less, such as 300 parts per million. The presentation clearly visualized that in the graphs. As we proceed with the recommendation of this case to go forward, there's even more information that we will need to gather for those regions that are most vulnerable, such as Africa, where they say that where 2% Celsius would be seriously devastating to their people, to their environment, their ecosystem, and those species that are most vulnerable. Some people who have studied this are even saying it must not go over 1%. So there is definitely need to look at the special areas and regions of Mother Earth where this issue of rights of Mother Earth are more vulnerable in certain geographical regions. There's clear evidence justifying that the issue of climate change and global warming and all the impacts that were demonstrated in the presentation, that they all violate the principles of the rights of Mother Earth. It was clear by the presenter that the case must study the role of four entities as the perpetrators against the rights of Mother Earth. And these are corporations, the United Nations, and all its instruments and all its family agencies and departments, and the global economic system based upon capitalism. There's also a need, I find, as we continue to gather information, is the role of the financial institutions, the World Bank, the regional development institutions as well, and the role that they play in this. It was very clear that climate change affects the whole planet, all of Mother Earth, all of her ecosystem, our rich biodiversity that we have, especially those vulnerable and at-risk species. It was clear that we have to look at our oceans. We have to look at the culture and protection of those populations that are at risk, those vulnerable populations in the small island states, as well as those populations that are close to the land and the water. That includes our indigenous peoples. So there's a clear link as we look at this and continue to study, is the link between the rights of Mother Earth, the rights of indigenous peoples, and human rights. There's a need for further evidence on the violations to the rights of water, including those populations in the Arctic, the northern polar regions, and where these ice cultures are living. There's recent reports that need to be brought out that demonstrate that the Arctic will even have more completely ice-free summers by 2018. The U.S. Navy researchers have predicted an ice-free Arctic even earlier by 2016. This affects a very sensitive Arctic ecosystem that affects the entire planet, that create and will create extreme weather patterns. So listing these issues, there is an urgency to move forward on this issue. Urgency to further study this and strengthen our deliberation. There was mention also on the negative impacts of payment for environmental services and market mechanisms as false solutions such as clean development mechanisms and forest offsets, agricultural offsets, conservation offsets, regimes such as reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. So, as a person on the Tribune, I'm very proud and honored to make the recommendation that we move forward on the climate case. It's a very serious matter. One short note on some other presentations related to Chevron as well as BP is that there are red projects that are woven into Chevron and BP where they are escaping their responsibilities to reduce these dangerous and toxic carbon emissions by participating in using our forests of developing countries as offsets, as carbon sponges. So I'd like for those folks preparing the case of Chevron and BP to look at whether or not red projects, these false solutions, where we are commodifying the sacred, we are commodifying Mother Earth, and build your case as well as in those areas. Thank you very much.